Okay, so we've got about 30 seconds to go. We've still got a few more people that are due to join us. Just get everything set up on screen. So for those of you who are waiting, Val, in fact, I'll tell you what, just in fact, I'll pick on somebody in specific. Andrew, would you be kind enough just to put a message in the chat box to say that you can hear me loud and clear, please? I'll accept that from on behalf of everybody. That's Andrew Chappell I'm asking there. Okay, not getting anything from Andrew. Maybe he's switched on and gone to make a cup of tea. So anybody that can hear me, just put a note in the chat box just to say that you can hear me loud and clear. Then I'll know that the technology is working okay. Okay, still, right, okay, I'm starting to get worried then. Thank you. Right, so we're getting some messaging. Right, that's fantastic. Well, I make it 10:30, so we will begin. I think there are still a few people that will be joining us, but let's start. So first of all, I just want to say welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Shane Lukas, I'm Managing Director of AVN, and today I'm going to be interviewing Val Wishart, who is based in Edinburgh, in fact, right smack bang in the centre of Edinburgh as well. I shall introduce Val properly in just a few moments. I just want to go through, really, I suppose, just share with you what the agenda is for today, and a few admin things as well before we start with our interview, and that gives a few of the latecomers the opportunity to join us as well. So first of all, the nature of this particular webinar is that, I mean, let's face it, listening to me talk about things that you could potentially do in your accounting practice is one thing, but when we hear from somebody else who has maybe had a similar starting point in her practice to where maybe you are right now, or maybe things to come as well, you know, we're inspired by listening to stories of where people have made certain achievements in areas that maybe others are striving towards achieving. So really what you'll get out of today, I think, is hopefully some inspiration that there is a better way, and maybe you'll see a way of achieving some of those objectives that you've got yourself as well in terms of improving your practice. So the agenda for today really is that I'm going to be interviewing Val. Whilst I'm doing that, please feel free to post in questions. You can use the Q&A box, you can use the chat box, whichever you prefer. It doesn't matter, and I'll reel those off to Val at the appropriate time, but we'll certainly make sure that we ask any questions that you have. I'd also like to invite you to get some clarity about your own accountancy practice. So I'll cover more on that a little bit later on. A couple of admin things. I'm just going to make sure, yes, I am recording this. We do record all of our webinars. We do put them on YouTube. Now, the caveat to that is you're on here. My recommendation is stay on and watch it. The whole thing will be less than 60 minutes. So quite often people will say, you know, let me watch the recording instead. I don't have time to be on here for an hour right now. But the reality is that nobody ever goes and watches the recording. Because it's recorded, everyone thinks, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that tomorrow. It never happens. So whilst you're here, stay with it. As I said, by all means, use the chat box. Now, we've got a few more people on there. So can I just ask you just to all pop your names into the chat box? That'll tell me that you know where it is. So just in case you don't, wave your mouse over. In theory, what you should be seeing is me on your screen. If you wave your mouse over there, you'll see some icons appear. And if you look for the chat symbol, you can load up your chat box and just type in your name. So I can see that's spot on. Catherine, you were the first there. Jerry, Nadine, thank you very much. So a few more coming in. Thank you very much. I can see Joanne, Peter, thank you, Peter, Richard, that's great, spot on. Hi, Richard. Right, okay, so not every name's got in there yet, so do just take a moment, because it does tell us that you're actively listening to this webinar as well, rather than just being on in the background whilst you're getting on with other work. So, brilliant, okay, right, well, I'll tell you what I'll do is, why don't we start? So I'm just going to make sure that my screen isn't the one that's dominating. And yeah, I'd like to welcome Val. So welcome, Val.
Thank you.
And we can hear you loud and clear. Val, would you mind just beginning by just introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about your accounting practice. Obviously, I've already said where you are, but a little bit about that and how long you've been in practice now.
Yeah, I'm Val Wishart. My company's name is Beyond the Numbers. Set up Beyond the Numbers in 2008. Really not having come through the accountancy profession, having been working in small businesses and industry for quite some time. And I knew nothing about running an accountancy firm at all, or actually even working in one when I started. But we now have a team of 5. We have, as you know, a lovely office in the middle of Edinburgh, and we work with small businesses mainly in the Edinburgh area in various different sectors.
Just tell me a little bit, what prompted you to set up your own accounting practice? You said you didn't really know how to run one, etc. What made you decide to do that?
I was working as an FD within a small business, and being an FD, I was doing a lot of roles. I had a lot of different hats, and I did a lot of the running of the company. And I decided that I would like to try and do that for a number of companies, and looked for work and got referred in from one company to another, and then was asked basically, could you do our accounts and our tax returns and our VAT and our payroll and all the rest of it as well? And at that point I thought, well, I suppose I better get some people and actually do this properly. And that's why I set up an accountancy firm. And I guess that's why it's called Beyond the Numbers, because I didn't really come at it from an accountancy firm, traditional accountancy firm point of view. I came at it from the point of view of, well, how can we help people use their numbers better?
Spot on. Sounds good. I was curious as to where the numbers came from, the name came from. So that's spot on. So as you established your accountancy practice and you started to grow it, what impact did that start to have then on your time, your level of enjoyment, all of those, I suppose, aspects of most people think I'm going to create my own business because it'll give me the choice in terms of hours and all of that. What was the reality for you?
The reality was the opposite of that. The reality was that as it grew, there was just more and more demands on my time, and more clients wanting firefighting, wanting things to be done immediately, wanting answers, wanting my availability at all hours of the day and night. And actually, I wasn't making as much money as I had done when I didn't have an accountancy firm, and I wasn't making as much money as I knew I could do if I just went and worked for another accountancy firm or anybody else probably. So I was pretty miserable. So
if I think many of us can perhaps relate to almost feeling, I'm sure things would be better if I just worked behind the till at Tesco's. Probably less hours and therefore more hourly rate income. What if things had continued like that? Where do you think, maybe a year on, obviously you did reach a point where you decided to make a change, but what if you hadn't? What do you think?
I would have shut the doors. I would have shut the doors and gone and worked for somebody else. Because I couldn't go on that way. I was really, really unhappy, and I was working too long hours, and it was completely affecting all of my life. It wasn't just about my working life.
Can I just ask the audience, just obviously those of you that have been listening so far, can you relate to the stuff that Val's saying? Is this sort of a similar picture to where you're at right now? Just put it in the chat box. I've not made you do it to all panelists, to all attendees. It's just for mine and Val's benefit, but we'll be able to see, is this something that you can relate to? So I've got a totally, yeah, so I've got some yeses coming in already. So yeah, okay, that's cool. Thank you for that. All right, spot on. So Val, what was the turning point for you? What was the turning point is a good enough question, isn't it? What was the thing that made you change direction?
Well, I actually decided during tax season 2016 it was, that this was not, that I was going to change things, and that I had to do something about it, because if I didn't change things within 3 months, I would have closed down and left. And so basically I gave myself a good talking to, and I decided the only person that can change it is you. Nobody else is going to magically come in and do this for you, so you have to do something about it. So I realised that I couldn't do anything with the way my head was at the time. And potentially some people out there will not relate to this in some way, but I decided to try meditation and to try and get some clarity of thinking, to try and actually unscramble my brain a little bit to figure out what I was going to do next. And I did. I went away and learned how to meditate. I've spoken with you about this before, using an app called Headspace, which helped me. And as I learned how to meditate, just started to get more clarity of everything, of seeing life, basically, not just through the workplace. And I at that stage, I went along to an ICAS conference where I saw Steve Pipe speaking. And he was talking about how accountants really change the lives of people, and how we're not just number crunchers, and how we actually help people on a daily basis make changes to their lives. And I thought, that is inspirational. I've never thought of that before. It's amazing because that's actually true. And so at that point, I thought I'll find out a bit more about Steve, and through him, I came along to an AVN masterclass, just from listening to one of his webinars at the time. And when I went to the AVN masterclass, I was blown away. I mean, I was absolutely blown away by the changes I could make quickly, and not necessarily easily, but quickly to what was happening. And I decided to give it a go.
Okay. So yeah, just catch up with that. So yeah, you started to do the meditation, and that just cleared your mind, because I suppose you have that much stuff going off. I noticed something that Nadim's just put in there. You know, so you've got that much going on. It's so busy. Your head's so busy, isn't it? Never mind anything else. So the meditation side of it, I've spoken to you a few times. In fact, you inspired me to start doing this myself, as I mentioned to you once before. It's made a massive difference for me. Now, obviously, this webinar is not just about meditating, but I think it's important, isn't it, to get that clarity in our mind as a starting point. And you made that conscious decision, something's got to change. And really, that's where you start. And that's probably the first place to start. It's all right looking at our practice, isn't it, and seeing how can we make that better. But actually, this has to be cleared first. So just what impact did that have on you? You know, you started doing the meditation. What did that lead to?
Within the context of Beyond the Numbers, I actually, for the first time ever, sat down and made a plan about where I wanted to go. And I'd never done that before. My practice had been built on reacting to things that other people wanted, and didn't have anything to do with what I wanted. And so for the first time, I sat down and actually thought about, what do I want? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do with this? Why am I here? And what's the point of it all? All the questions that I ask my clients every time I see them, but I had never asked myself.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, for those of you, as I say, this webinar is not really about the meditation side, although I highly recommend it. And I'll be honest, it's something I've just thought it's one of those fluffy type of things in the past, but actually having done it and using Headspace app myself, I do find it incredibly, I'm not sure what other word to use, it gives you a lot of clarity, doesn't it? It just helps tidy that mind up a little bit, and that's a great place to start. Okay, so let's just go back to, you attended masterclass. You said you were, I can't remember the exact words now, but ultimately you found that there was so much stuff there, and you were really ready and raving to go. What did you do first? What was the outcome from that?
The first thing we did was stop working with people that we didn't want to work with anymore. So we immediately went through and graded our clients, and the team got to choose who we fired, and we fired some clients. And believe me, I had to take a big brave pill to do that, because it's a scary thing to do. But really, the people that suck your time and your energy, and the people that don't pay you enough and will never pay you enough, and are always people that moan at you the most, it's just not worthwhile. It's just not worth your time and energy to look after them and to keep giving into their demands. So the first thing we did was get rid of some clients. And that freed up a lot of time, actually, a disproportionate amount of time to go and think about other things within the practice. So that was the first thing, and that gained some time. And then we started to use Time's Up, your pricing software, for new clients. So any prospects coming through the door, we would put a proposal out using Time's Up software, and the prices were much higher than what we'd been charging before. So we instantly replaced not instantly, but we replaced the clients that we'd fired with new clients who were paying us more. So that was the first most immediate impact of what we did.
I'm just thinking of the viewers that are listening now, and I noticed a few names that have been on the masterclass before and they'll know a little bit more about what that's about, but people who haven't as well. And I suppose it might sound a little bit daunting to think, well, some of the first things you did were sack some clients, whereas obviously the mindset is quite often, well, actually I need to build up my client base, yet alone sack them. And just looking at a lot of our testimonials, some of the quickest wins that people celebrate and rave about is that they went and sacked some clients, which almost sounds the opposite of what you would expect people to, and also put the fees up. So just tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, I noticed somebody commented on LinkedIn the other day about, well, it was a webinar that one of our competitors had done, arguably, but it was saying that it was almost slating the fact that, you shouldn't put prices up, you shouldn't charge more because you've all had the same training as everybody else. What are your views on that?
You shouldn't put prices up because we've had the same training as other people.
Yes, that was the comment in there. So I'm not putting my spin on that. I'd just be interested to find out what yours are.
Well, first of all, we haven't all had the same training as other people. Some people that potentially are charging cheap prices aren't necessarily qualified accountants, so that's the first thing. Secondly, actually what we give to our clients is so much more than what many other people give to their clients. When people come to us, the number of things that I hear about how the service they've had from other accountants is surprising and quite sad in quite a lot of ways, because accountants are not covering themselves in glory across the country in the way that they serve their clients. So I believe that the relationship that we have with our clients and the service that we give to our clients is absolutely worth every penny that we are now charging them, but previously for some reason were afraid to charge them. And part of that is through, thanks to AVN, is through going through the roadmaps, working through who we are, what we're offering, what our service is, and how we're actually giving value to our clients.
And I think, especially given that I've had a little bit of time to think about that comment myself, but I think ultimately there are a lot of accountants out there that just say, we'll do your compliance accounts or we'll do your tax returns, whereas actually what you're offering and many others are packaging their services up into a solution that might have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but also some extra value in there as well that really differentiates that service offering completely, doesn't it? Which makes price no longer the deciding factor as well, doesn't it? Because the value far outweighs the price. Is that fair to say?
Definitely. But I would actually add, even clients for whom we are doing compliance services and for whom we're not doing what some people might classically think of as value-added services for, we are adding value to them because we do listen to them. We ask them what they want. We ask them what they want for their life. We ask them what they want for their business. We hold their hand. They're on the phone to us. They do pop in to see us. So actually, For compliance services, we probably charge more than other people because, yes, we might be doing your VAT returns and your tax returns, but we're also helping you out. We have clients phone us up and ask us questions about absolutely everything. They phone us up and ask us if they are looking for somebody to help them with HR, a lawyer, an IT person. I have a client that thinks I'm Google, because he asks absolutely everything and I go and Google it and tell him the answer. I can put them in touch with a plumber if they want. So we are a kind of really a trusted advisor. And I know that's a bit of a hackneyed phrase and lots of people use it, but I can honestly say, hand on heart, that we are a trusted advisor to our clients. And for that, people actually don't really care what the price is.
Yeah, spot on. Just for a progress, I've just noticed a question from Nadeem. So it's just put, does it take time and investment to get there, especially with changing the way you work? Are we limited on price in the location that we're located in? What are your views on that?
I think it probably does take time to get there in the way you work if you don't naturally work that way. And that's definitely something AVN can help with. So I think you've got to actually make a plan to get there, to working in that way with people. So yes, it probably does take time and investment. And even if you do naturally work that way and you've got a team who don't, it takes time and investment to get the team to work that way. So yes, probably. The location, I can't answer for, I can't speak for, because within Edinburgh, we're not the cheapest and we're not the most expensive. So, there's all sorts, but we're in a city centre environment where I don't know whether there's other environments that maybe the marketplace is a lower fee. Having said that, if the marketplace is a lower fee, you don't want to be the marketplace, you want to be different to them. So, create that something special that somebody wants particularly you for, and give them that. Yeah,
I'll put my. All right, you're attending the July masterclass anyway, Nadeem. I was just gonna. That's spot on. Brilliant. Well, looking forward to seeing you there as well, Nadeem. Okay. You mentioned earlier the roadmaps, Val, and the roadmaps, for those of listening who might not be familiar, they are a 7-stage methodology that we quite recently put together, didn't we? Sort of based on our 20 years plus experience, but ultimately it was a recent introduction. Now, you joined us before the roadmaps, didn't you? Just briefly tell us about the difference between pre-roadmaps and post-roadmaps, if you would.
Well, pre-roadmaps, as I said, when I went to the masterclass, I was blown away because I thought it was amazing. And I thought the material and the resources and all the help was fantastic. But I was overwhelmed by it because there's so much information and there was so much I wanted to do. And it was almost overwhelming in how do I put this into some kind of order so that I can actually do something with it that is meaningful, because you can't just do everything at once. And the roadmaps really helped with that, because you do need to kind of do things in the right order. So to go back to your question about, to Nadeem's question about, do you have to spend time and investment to get to the place where you can feel comfortable with, charging higher fees? Yes, you do. But how do you do that? You need to go through the steps. You need to figure out, why you're doing what you're doing, where you're trying to get to, first of all, and go through the various roadmaps before you can feel comfortable getting there. So I would say the roadmaps really help lay out a path for you to make the changes to your practice, rather than just leaving you with all the resources and then for you to try and figure out for yourself, oh, what should I do first, or how should I, what order should I do this in, or why would, can I increase my fees without doing something else first? So it's just a helpful way to guide you through that.
Yeah, spot on. Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, I'll just ask you a few questions about your experience of going through each one that you've gone through so far, Val, and I suppose I'll just set the scene behind each one for the benefit of the viewers as well. So they start with clarity, don't we? You know, you got clarity in terms of deciding what you were going to do prior to ABM, but actually clarity, it sets the scene for the starting point, doesn't it? Clarity, within clarity, we help people get absolute clarity about what they want to achieve in their practice. Now, for some, they can sort of envisage 3 years, 5 years ahead. For others, actually, they just need to see the wood for the trees, and maybe let's just get beyond the insanity right now and even just think about 3 to 6 months ahead. So it's different for everybody, but just helping them get that clarity and then reverse engineer that backwards into a sort of a rollout plan to start to see those maybe targets, but also look at the quick wins. So you've mentioned some of those already, haven't you? Getting clarity in terms of losing some of your clients, raising the fees, which actually replaces that, but also frees up your time, doesn't it, to start working on the business, looking for other people. What are the other things that you've achieved in clarity in that sort of roadmap stage yourself so far?
Well, I think for me, the biggest thing about the clarity stage was actually getting some time back. And so the various things that I worked through were at the start were really all about claiming back some time, because I knew that nothing was going to change if I didn't find some time to make the things happen. So if I was just sitting doing client work all day, every day, and reacting to my clients' demands all day, every day, I wasn't ever going to carve out that time that I needed to work on my business. And again, another quite cliched thing, to work on the business and not in the business. But I think that clarity really helped me with that, to actually sit down and establish, right, how are you going to get this time back? What are you doing that you don't need to be doing? What are you doing that's not urgent and not important, and get rid of it? And then spend the time actually planning, what do you want? What do you want, Val, for this business? And that's what clarity really helped with.
Yeah, good stuff. And clarity can be different for everybody, because we've all got different starting points. So in your case, that was incredibly important, and that was a starting point for you, but it might be different for other people as well. And clarity just helps you get going, doesn't it? The next stage then is positioning. And this is, I suppose we look at position for a number of reasons. One is that many accountants fall into the trap, make the mistake of just positioning themselves in exactly the same way as every other accountant out there. You know, their websites are just one particular channel, but on their websites they might advertise themselves as, you know, we're accountants, we're business advisors, we're forward thinking, we're proactive, we're different, and then they all go on to say we do accounts, we do bookkeeping, we do payroll, and all of those typical services. That's just one aspect, really. But then when you're having the conversations with clients as well. So in position, we look at how do you differentiate yourself from that stereotypical accountant. What were the things that you perhaps have implemented off the back of going through that positioning?
Yeah, well, our website was dreadful. I mean, it was absolutely dreadful before we went through positioning. And I wanted to do something completely different to that. And I sat and thought about what is the message that we want to put across to people. And we wanted to put across a message that we were different. But as you say, so does everybody else. So we needed to think of something that just, for a start, visually looked different. And so we created a website that visually looks different from most other accountants' websites. It's a bit more fun, it's a bit more quirky, but also we wanted to create a website that first and foremost talks about you as a client rather than us. And so that's our focus when we were writing the website was, let's get more you words in it than we words in it, so that actually if somebody was reading it, it spoke to them, rather than it speaking about us being founded in 2008 and being in the centre of Edinburgh and all the rest of it. It spoke about, what do you want from your business? You know, what do you get the numbers that you need, and are these numbers helping you? So that was the message we wanted to get out there was, we want to know about you. This isn't about us, this is about you. And I guess positioning helped us enormously from that point of view.
Do you mind if I just pull it up and give a quick 30-second?
No, go for it.
Because I think, I'll just pull that up. I'll assume that you can see that. So yeah, as I say, really, it's not cluttered. First of all, with we, like you say. It doesn't say we do accounts, we do bookkeeping, and as you say, it's about, there's a big massive you in there straight away, and ultimately, would you like to know today if your business is performing the way you want it to? And then you go on to talk about your performance measurement and improvement system, of which the accounts just forms 1/9 of that entire process, doesn't it? And this is really a business growth type of service that you're offering to your clients as part of the standard offering. Is that fair to say?
Yes, yes.
And that is very different from what most people, it starts with setting your goals and agreeing those, developing the plan, measuring the performance right through to action planning. So I think that's fantastic and very different. And what I really like as well, and I'd love for you just to expand on this, you go into the About Us, there's an introduction from you, you've obviously set up some kind of camera or maybe your phone, I don't know, and then you've got your values in there. Talking about your values, what's really important, you go on, you offer the fixed fees, you've got a guarantee in place, and you're just, I suppose, adding that element of extra value by saying, the support's free, the emails, the phone calls, the meetings, those things. I really like those things. Just tell me about your values video. I know you told me a great story about that.
Did I? Oh, I've forgotten. What was the great story?
Well, I think it was more that, you said that the people have seen that values video and just approached you and basically said, we've not seen something like that before. And we
have. We've had clients who've come to us, new clients that have come to us because of that. And actually, particularly younger people. And we've got quite a lot of clients. Edinburgh's a big tech centre in the UK, and we have a lot of clients in technology businesses who are young people, and it seems to really resonate with them. They seem to really want to know what the values of the business are before they come and sign up with you. It seems to be becoming ever more important. So yeah, we have had people come and say the reason that we picked you and your website was because of the values that you spoke about on the website. So yeah, it seems to resonate, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, values, that's most prevalent in millennials, but actually people think a millennial must be somebody who was born in year 2000, but it's not the case. It was somebody who really went through their teens during that phase. And so I think I read the other day that if you're 37 or less, you're classed as a millennial right now. Well, there are lots of entrepreneurs that are within that age range. Certainly, that's seriously going to appeal to right now, isn't it? Okay, so fantastic. As I say, I think your website, but the way that you present yourself in general is very different, isn't it, from other accountants out there, which allows you then to more value price your services. So on the subject of value then, and we've just looked at your performance measurement and improvement, but what are the ways that you add value to the services that, again, may be different from many of the other accountants out there?
Yeah, so you saw on the website there about the process that we take our clients through, and we use the AVN numbers, the numbers folder. So we give that to new clients, and the first thing we do when we meet new clients is talk about what their goals are, where they're going, and what they want to achieve with their business, before we figure out exactly what's the best way for us to help them. So we start from, okay, what's your goal for the business? And we work through whatever it is that they need to help them get there. And we use Futurely to give them forecasting, and we create management reporting tools for them. But we sit down and listen to them a lot to figure out what it is, what their KPIs are, so that we can figure out a way to help them get reported on each month. So, clients really feel that they're getting something that they didn't know that accountants did. I've heard that lots of times. I didn't know that accountants did this kind of stuff. Is something that people say to me when they come to us all the time, which is really interesting. But it's the fun bit. That's the interesting bit. Getting to know the people and helping them do what it is that they want to do. That's the bit that gets me out of bed in the morning. Not preparing a set of accounts.
Yeah, you just anticipated my question there, which is how do you feel about delivering these types of services?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's fun. It's great. You know, it's the people that make the businesses. And I'm fundamentally nosy, and I like to find out about why people are doing what they're doing. And there's a lot of really interesting businesses run by really interesting people out there. Why would you not want to help them get there?
So did you ever feel daunted by the fact that, well, you know, what if they ask you a question about how to grow their business and you can't answer it? What are the types of things that come up, I suppose? And I appreciate putting you on the spot here, but, you know, is it within the remit of your experience as being an accountant that you're able to help people grow their business? I don't know if I worded that very well, but I think you got the message.
I think, of course, people ask me all the time stuff that I don't know the answer to. But I think if you listen to people, I think listening for me is the absolute key to what it is that they need. And then you find a resource or a tool that will help them. So we are changing what we do all the time, and we're always looking for new bits of technology that can help people. We're always researching what we can do to help them. And if you use things like, and if it's not your natural style to be somebody who knows the questions to ask or whatever, then fair enough. But AVN has all these tools to help you get to the right questions. So, you know, you can use benchmarking, or you can use On Track, and they will give you basically the questions to ask clients to get to them telling you what it is that they need. And at that point, you can help them do that. So it's kind of a mixture of your natural style with asking questions with people, using the tools that you can maybe get hold of to get the questions to ask people, and then finding what solutions there are out there in the marketplace to help people with the answers.
Yeah, and it's fair to say that after a while that, you know, the reliance on the tools will probably become less and less as this becomes more natural as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the value part of the roadmap. And in value, I mean, we look at, I suppose there are many aspects of value, but the key things are we help people look at the whole value perception of somebody. So if you imagine somebody's first impression of meeting another accountant, it might be quite high. Maybe they've seen a great website, but in many cases then that can drop massively down when they maybe phone up and it takes 7 rings to answer the phone and somebody answers fairly abruptly and things like that. What are the things that you've put in place to make sure that value perception of you, it's not just about the phone but various other things, what are the things that you put in place there to make sure that somebody's opinion of you, if you like, from a value point of view, stays high throughout the entire prospect and customer journey?
Well, I suppose they're quite simple things. You know, we answer the phone within 3 rings. All the team are very bright and cheery and answer the phone with a smile. And I have a really good team, so I am really lucky in this. But anybody that's speaking to a client will speak in a certain way to a client and be kind with clients in the first instance and interested in them. And it didn't take a huge amount of work with my team to make that happen because they are naturally that kind of person. But I think it's really important that your whole team acts in the same way as you do. We actually have, and this is quite a recent thing, we have something called a jargon monkey in the office, and it's a little soft toy whose name is Alan, and he is a little monkey. And if anybody hears one of the team members talking to a client using some kind of technical jargon that wouldn't be obvious to understand, the rest of the team have permission to throw Alan at whoever it is that's speaking, make them realise that they're talking technical speak and to actually start talking in the client's language rather than ours. So these are the kind of things that just make a difference And it's my team, not me now, that get all the thank yous from clients. It's my team that get the presents and the cards saying you're a lifesaver and all the rest of it. So it's really important that is embedded through the team.
Yeah, I really love that, and that whole value perception, really, as you said, it's little things that actually make a big difference, isn't it? And yet, sadly, it's those little things that quite often let an accountancy practice down. I mean, I've certainly first-hand experienced a wide range of accountancy practices, and as I say, sometimes it is just those little things, isn't it, that they might forget it, maybe they've not systemised their customer service, and it can just massively reduce that impression that you have of somebody. I'm just going to break for a couple of moments, and I just want to just ask the audience. I think many have done this now, but we mentioned the first three stages of the AVM roadmap, really. We've obviously just touched very lightly on the clarity, position, and value. This is rhetorical. I don't need to put something in the chat box or anything like that, but just ask yourself, how well are you doing in those three areas right now? Have you got absolute clarity on where you're going to take your accounting practice to and how you're going to get it there? Because quite often we fall into this rut of just doing the same thing day after day after day, and nothing's changing, nothing's improving, is it? Likewise, how are you positioned compared to other accountants? Are you in a position where you're differentiating yourself so much that actually price is no longer that deciding factor for a business owner, but it's actually the package that you're offering is seen as so different, they're happy to pay a premium for it? And are you delivering added value services that are actually making a profound difference to the lives behind those business owners? How well do you believe that you're doing in those areas? What I'd like to invite you to do following this webinar, and there's no commitment that you're not sort of tying yourself into anything, there's no strings, but for your personal benefit, we've got a report. Now, I recognise some of the names on here have done this already. Really, it takes about 7 minutes to answer a series of questions about your accountancy practice. And what it'll do is it'll give you a graph showing exactly how well you're doing in the different areas of that AVM roadmap. Now, what we've seen, we've got enough data in there now. I sent the data that we've acquired so far to a statistical analyst, and that's the first time I've been able to say that without getting tongue-tied, who's come back with lots of insights taken from the data. And one of the biggest insights this person's seen, and this will all go into another report that I'm writing at the moment, is basically anybody that's even been with AVM for a very short space of time has shown massive improvements in these areas, and that's directly impacted on their own their income, their enjoyment, and their worries and all of those different factors as well. Because actually, many of us do stay awake at night worrying about different aspects of our business. It's perfectly natural, but actually that's eliminated. So now I'm not asking you to commit to anything other than just complete this and find out for yourself where you are, because it may be that you are strong in certain areas. If you're already strong in those areas, then rather than maybe focusing on those things, at least you can see where maybe you do need to focus some of your attention. In addition, you get a great report off it. I've had lots of feedback on this. Shows you the typical mistakes accountants make, what are the consequences. And then based on the data you put in, so I recommend that you be as honest and truthful as possible, otherwise you're not going to know where to start still. It'll give you some strategies on what you can do straight away in your accounting practice to improve it. So Nadeem, I will send out a link following this webinar for you to do that, so as not to detract from the webinar itself and the interview with Val. I'll send out a link. So what I'd like to see, we've got, I think there are lots of people listening right now, just put a yes in the box if you'll commit to just taking 7 minutes of your time to answer this questionnaire and then get the report through. So I can see yeses appearing already. So I just want to make sure that everybody's listening and tuned in. I'm going to commit to doing this. So yeah, I can see quite a few names, yeses coming in. That's fantastic. Yeah, if you've done it, Joanne, it's entirely up to you whether you want to do it again. It's interesting also to see if things have changed and improved on there. So lots of yeses, and keep those coming in. I just want to see that you're going to do it. Yeah, that's spot on. Brilliant. All right, well, that's fantastic. As I say, absolutely no strings attached to that, but I'm interested in getting the data. It has to be honest and accurate as well. Okay, so back to you then, Val. Thank you for that. So the next stage, and I know that you're actually halfway through the gearing in terms of the workbook. itself, aren't you? But I do know that you've made an impact in certain other areas outside of that sort of AVN input. So it'd still be interesting to go through them. Gearing's the next one, isn't it? Gearing's about leveraging your time so that your team are becoming much more client-facing and, as I say, really saving your time, allowing you to maybe grow your accountancy practice further without that directly impacting on your own amount of hours that you have to put in and the effort that you have to put in. So just tell us a little bit about gearing.
Yeah, so I guess the first part of gearing, which is the part that we've done so far, is actually about the team and how's the team performing and how do they work together and how do you make sure you've got the right people in the team. So it was actually good timing for us because last year we just took on another team member and I hadn't done that for quite a long time. And so it was quite important for someone coming into quite a close-knit team to fit in properly and to make sure that it all worked smoothly together. So we did disc profiles for all of our team, and we sat and had a meeting and a discussion about how we were, what our personalities were and how we would work best with each other, which was a really interesting process to go through because, excuse me, you learn how to perhaps understand your team members better and how they want to be treated by you and vice versa. And we did the VAK, the visual, auditory and kinesthetic learning styles and communication styles as well, which we worked on how do we actually listen out when we're talking to a client for what their style is. Are they visual? Are they auditory? And therefore we could adapt the way that we speak to them or the way we communicate with them depending on what it is that they want. And I guess all of that is all around different types of people working together. How do we optimize that and how do we optimize it as regards clients? So I love all that psychology stuff, so it was great, really interesting. But the team all really got on board, and all of this gearing thing for me is all about making sure that the team are on board, committed, engaged, happy, and doing the job that they want to do. Because if they're doing that, then they're looking after the clients, and I can look after them basically. So I guess that's what gearing's all about for me. And my plan, my personal plan for this year is that I am basically off the tools as such and on strategy, finance, sales and marketing, and that the team are responsible for delivery. So that's a big thing for us this year, and that's what we're working towards at the moment, and gearing is helping us to do that.
Brilliant. And yeah, it's interesting what you just said there, because it is gearing, and the next one, automation, really help you scale and almost make this transition between from it becoming a partner-centered accountancy practice to an accountancy business, isn't it, that is scalable. Yeah. And automation is really about getting the systems in place and also tapping into the technology. And I know you've not gone through that specific stage of the roadmap yet, but you've been putting systems in place along the way, haven't you? I mean, that's part of the expectation throughout the journey. What's been the impact of getting the systems in place?
Well, basically, again, first of all, me freeing up time and my team actually knowing what it is that they're doing. So instead of me using the phrase that they gave me that I used to use a lot was, could you just do this? Could you just do that? Instead of that, we now actually have systems in place, and they have permission to push back at me when I could you just at them. So that's important, but also it's getting the consistency. So it's knowing that actually across the board, everybody's doing the same thing in the same way is really, really key. And we're not there yet by a long shot. We're working on it, but actually just the fact that we're working on it is making a big difference.
Brilliant, thank you. So the last two stages really, one is profile. So this is really about getting much more known, liked and trusted in your target marketplace. And we talk about there are different ways of doing that. You've got an online profile, so you've got your social media side of it and that type of thing, but you've also got your offline profile, the stuff that you do in person, maybe in front of clients and prospects as well. Now I know that you're doing stuff in those different areas. Could you just tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what the benefits have been from doing that as well?
Yeah, well, I guess this all started when I actually won an AVN award, and I had to go up on the stage and be interviewed by the scary Steve Pike. I was absolutely terrified because speaking in public was something that horrified me, and I was shaking. I was literally shaking. And so I decided when I came off that stage that I was going to do something about it, and that I was actually going to stop being so scared, and I was going to learn how to speak to people in public. And so I actually actively started seeking out opportunities to do so. And one of the things that I decided to do was I work with a business coach as well, and together with him we set up something called the Really Good Business Club, whereby we would invite business owners along once a month to a chat about something or other. And it was never about accountancy and never about accounts, but it was all sorts of different subjects. And we invited lots of different speakers along. And basically it was actually standing up there and putting myself out into the marketplace as somebody that would help business owners in stuff that was nothing to do with their accounts, but would help their business, really to get the profile to match what we said we were doing for people. And while I was doing all of that, you guys asked me to speak at the AVN conference last year, so I actually hired a coach to help me learn how to speak, and decided to get over this ridiculous fear that I had and learned how to speak, and did so. Culminated in me standing up on stage at the conference last year and giving a talk. So these are some of the things. I also became an ambassador for a local networking organisation, We Do Scotland, which is actually a very prestigious networking organisation for entrepreneurs in Scotland. And I became one of their exec team, which basically just gives me the profile amongst business owners in Scotland and really good businesses, that they will get to know me and they will get to know Beyond the Numbers and get to know what we do that's different from other people in that way. So these are all kinds of things that we're all going on at the same time.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know that you've mastered. You also, I think you're certainly on social media and quite active as well. Just what's your what's the inspiration to be posting stuff? You know, what do you think? I know that's going to make a good post. I'll get that out there, or not. What would you say inspires you to put stuff out there?
Just stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis. It's a really good idea to keep a little blog post notepad somewhere nearby, and you'll find that somebody will ask you a question and you'll think, actually probably lots of people want to know the answer to that, so why don't I just do a post on it? Or you'll be having a conversation with a client on the phone about something and you think that people will know this stuff, but they don't, so why not write about it? And actually just things that come up that I think, well, somebody might be interested in this. I think you've got to be not too scared about it. I think you have to just throw yourself at it and start doing it and start trying it and see what kind of reaction you get, and just be yourself. And just, you will find that when you're speaking to people on a day-to-day basis, they're asking you questions, and it's those questions that are the inspiration for writing things.
I've got a question from Nadeem. By the way, everybody else, I know there are lots listening. You are all welcome to ask questions, but thank you, Nadeem. It's a great question. So, Val, as you develop your profile, is there ever a fear that a client may approach you that you can't service because maybe they're too big or complex?
Sorry, might approach me with what?
Basically, I'll paraphrase it a little bit. So you're raising your profile, you're being seen much more as a credible expert out there, your name's getting bandied around in the business world. Is there a fear that a potential client may approach you that actually you think these are too big, or they're a little bit too complex for me? Do you have that as a challenge, or do you worry about that?
No. It's never crossed my mind. And I guess the way I would treat any potential client is, do they fit our ideal client profile? And if they don't, is there a compelling reason for us to take them on as a client? And if not, refer them somewhere else. And that could be at any end of the scale, too big, too complex, too small, too whatever, or in the wrong kind of industries for us. We've determined who our ideal clients are, and so if somebody approaches me that's different to that, what I would always try and do is find them the right match. But so far, clients that are too big, we haven't actually had that bother. One thing that is important is that when there are bigger clients, they might have the perception that we are too small for them. So it might be the other way around. But we manage that by saying that we have access to a huge marketplace of experts in whatever it is that they might need. The relationship will stay with us, but if they need some specialist expertise in group restructuring or something like that, we will find them the appropriate expert to do it at the right price for them. So actually, if you become their trusted advisor, it doesn't really matter what size they are, because it's not necessarily you that's doing all the work.
Yeah, well put, spot on. Yes, it is, Nadeem. Sorry, I'm just looking at Nadeem's comment there. It's about really having a good understanding about what your ideal client is. Yeah, it absolutely is, Nadeem, and I suppose arguably more on that at the masterclass. The final stage of the roadmap is purposeful, and in purposeful we look at different ways that you can really probably go even deeper with a business owner to help change lives. Now, I know that the stuff that you're doing is impacted. Just have a look at your life, and I suppose the team around you, the clients, your families. What impact has all of this had? If you go back to that point that you were talking about when you made that decision, something's got to change, which sounds very different from the stuff that you're doing now, which sounds really exciting. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just tell us a little bit about that. What's the impact that you're now seeing and personally experiencing?
It's huge. The way our clients are friends, a lot of them, and we work with people to make changes to their lives. We really do. And we work with people. People are so excited about the kind of information that they can get and the kind of things that they can do and the kind of decisions that they can make to change their business. For example, on Monday morning, I got an email from a client saying, I really need your help. I know that I said that my wife was going to retire from her job and become a shareholder in my business in 2 years' time. But because my daughter is ill, my wife has to retire from her job now and she has to stay at home. Help me figure out if my business is in a good enough shape for me to make my wife a shareholder and share the profits with her just now, and for that to sustain our two life requirements while my wife looks after my daughter. And so I can sit with him and his numbers and sit and go through that and say, yes, you can afford to do it, go for it now. And that if you do it, you know that you've got to hit these targets, but actually you can do it. That makes a huge difference to somebody's life. I mean, that's not about doing their accounts for them. That's about how can we make my business help my life? And we have got the numbers and the skills to be able to help them do that. So, that's so satisfying. That makes the whole thing worthwhile.
I can't think of a better note to finish on. Thank you very much for that, Val. Those of you listening, I'm going to make just one quick question from Nadeem. As clients demand more services or advice, do you charge for this? That's a very good point.
Yes. Simple answer. We absolutely do.
Yeah, there's no alternative. Yeah, there's no more you can say on that. Right. Well, listen. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Could you all join me in just I suppose, answering the question: were you inspired by Val today? Just put that in the message box, please. Can you see the message box, Val?
Yes,
yeah,
I can.
I see lots of yeses going in there. That's fantastic. Well, thank you, everybody. Yeah, that's fantastic. Lots of yeses going in. Thank you. And some in the Q&A box as well. So we're not missing those. They're loaded up as well. Well, thank you very much, Val. It's been fantastic. I always enjoy listening to the stuff that you're doing in your practice as well. I think it's fantastic. So,
thank you.
Right. Well, I shall bid you a very good day and enjoy some of that sun. It stopped shining now in Chesterfield, but I suspect it's still shining in Edinburgh.
It is.
Good stuff. Right. Well, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody else. I'll send that link out to complete that form as well immediately after this.
Thank you.
All the best, everybody. Thanks, Phil. Bye-bye.